Now, my next guest has been described by supporters as an idealist, a patriot, someone who is standing for the culture of the national identity of what it used to be. Others would call him a thug, public enemy number one, labelling him a neo-Nazi. Blair Cottrell, welcome to the show. Mate, I've seen lots of things about you in the media, some things negative, some things positive. You have a number of followers around Australia, hundreds of thousands. Who is Blair Cottrell today? Who was he in the past, and how do you see Australia going forward into the future?
Well, today, I suppose I'm the same man as I am every day. I'm a chippy from Frankston, a carpenter from the southeastern suburbs who just says what most people are thinking. What else would you like to know?
Well, you've been outspoken on a range of issues in the past. There are people who are calling you all names under the sun. The left, or the mad left as people like to call them, are out there attacking you on a regular basis. I've seen many times you've come together in different groups, standing up for what you believe in. Do you think you're representing a large majority of the people of Australia?
Absolutely. I think the people of Australia know that there is something wrong with this country. They may not have the information to verbalise what that is, but they are willing to listen. And I suppose the rise of Donald Trump, or the election of Donald Trump, is proof that the values and the narratives of the mainstream media do not necessarily represent the values of the people. They may in fact be at odds with the people. And so I believe I'm standing up for the average working class Australian when I say that this country is in trouble.
So you mentioned Donald Trump. Donald Trump has spoken a lot about immigration. He spoke a lot about Islam. I know that you've got firm views on Islam. Do you see a correlation between the way Australia is going and where it should go in regards to some of the arguments that Donald Trump is putting out there?
Look, I think regardless of Muslims or any other type of people coming into this country, what we lack in this country is national pride. In the same way a lot of Western countries lack the same national pride that is necessary to galvanise the minds of the masses and to protect the people of this country against foreign ideologies, against the sort of shame and guilt complex which is being pumped into the soft heads of our children and into the heads of adults today as well. So I think if we can rebuild or reclaim our traditional identity as Australians, then we may not even need a Donald Trump. We may be able to fix this situation ourselves.
So national pride, I mean, what is national pride? There's been many people in Australia who say that we've got an enormous pride. We've got a long history of the Anzacs, of federation, of settlement. There's a lot of a lot of support going back to support Indigenous Australians to be part of the Constitution, as we just saw in the news there. What do you think needs to change with the national pride?
It needs to begin early in the education system. Anzac Day and Australia Day are two holidays which are actually all national holidays which are under attack. Every year, leftist social circles and the various journalists and mainstream media become more and more vicious in their attacks of our traditional holidays and who we are as a people. This is not just an attack against our country, but against the spirit of our nationality.
So do you think Australians aren't proud of being Australian?
No, I think they want to be, and they're searching for something to believe in and to be proud of. But they're denigrated, they're attacked for doing that, and most of them are too scared to even be politically engaged. They think it's safer to just live out their lives and try to make ends meet without getting involved in politics because of the amount of harassment people like such as myself receive just for standing up for this country.
So are you a voice of the silent majority?
Absolutely, I believe I am.
When it comes to immigration, there's a lot of talk about reducing immigration numbers in Australia. We've commented on this show recently that immigration numbers have come down by 20,000 and some people are saying it needs to go a lot further. Where do you see immigration in Australia in terms of its mix and its numerical areas and the way that people come to Australia, whether it's through urban areas or regional areas?
Look, my standpoint on immigration is really quite simple and quite practical. A, skilled migrants. Immigrants who can prove they've got some form of qualification, prove their work history, etc. B, immigrants who are not too culturally dissimilar from us. But even if you want to draw the line at A and say just skilled workers, working migrants, in South Africa right now, in that parliament, those parliamentarians, those ministers are currently drawing up in their constitution means for killing and stealing the property from white workers and farmers in that country. And there's millions of them. There's well over 1 million skilled workers and farmers, white South Africans, desperate to get out of that country. Now, we could, right now, stop immigration from every other country in the world and only allow it from South Africa. Get these white South Africans into our country. Not only would we be saving their lives, but we could sustain our economy for 5 years without a problem and grow it exponentially. It ticks all the boxes. It's humanitarian, it's economically efficient, and the only parliamentarian, the only minister, to my knowledge, who has said something about this, who has stood up for these people, what's happening to them there, and actually suggested that we create some sort of initiative to bring them into this country is Peter Dutton. No other minister has the balls to stand up for these people, and I don't see why they don't.
Well, of course, Australia takes a number of immigrants from the African continent. We see a lot of issues in Melbourne itself around African gangs. Do you have a position on whether or not we should be allowing more Africans from other countries coming to Australia, or should it just be white South African farmers?
Well, it violates Principle B of my standpoint on immigration. These people are not culturally similar to us. I do not think white South African farmers are going to be ransacking homes, carjacking, attacking police, chopping people up with machetes on the street. This happened in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. I think it was earlier this year or maybe late last year. We need to think ahead and not import people who are going to clash with us religiously, ideologically or culturally. We need to be sensible about immigration and stop trying to appease lunatics on the left.
So you've got a pretty big platform. You've been involved in a range of organisations in the past. I think it's United Patriots Front and a number of others. Are you politically motivated in wanting to form your own party? I know that you looked at it in 2016, didn't get to the point to make that happen. Where are you now in terms of politics?
Well, right now we're in the process of creating community-based organisations called Lad Society. We already have Lad Society. We have 2 community-based organisations, one in Melbourne and one in Sydney. The purpose of these societies is to draw in disenfranchised young Aussies, people who are able to recognise the hostile propaganda in the institutions, people who are sick of being called racist just for pointing out things the way they are. Returned servicemen, basically anyone is welcome. There's gym equipment, there's a social area, it's a positive atmosphere, it's a network for jobs. We have members who have their own security firms, builders, people in land development, and we want to create a network of like-minded Australians, positive, patriotic Australians, because if we will create a political party in the future, I believe it's more important to get 100 paying members in one of these rooms, in one of these facilities, patriotic, like-minded people, before we even start thinking about making a political party.
So is the Lads organisation in Melbourne and in Sydney, is that part of a groundswell of building the political momentum or providing support to young people in the community?
Probably both. We're about a month away from setting up one in Brisbane as well. As I said, the aim is spiritual, primarily. It's to provide people with hope, to create an environment where people can improve their physical health, because we believe healthy body, healthy mind. And we want to make sure that people have somewhere to go and have somewhere they can go for help when they need either employment or emotional help or physical help, whatever it is they need. And so far, we're growing. We're growing a great deal. We've, I think, just signed on our 120th member in Melbourne last week. So.
Oh, very good. So just finally, where do you see the political landscape in Australia? There's a lot of what people would call parties on the right, whether that's the Australian Conservatives with Corey Bernardi, Pauline Hanson and One Nation. There's people, you spoke about Peter Dutton. There's people in that area. Where do you think politics are, and do politics in Australia right now represent what you stand for and the principles that which you believe in?
I stand for this country and the people in this country. I don't know if I can say the same for any parliamentarian right now. I think one of the major problems we have in Parliament in our country is these ministers are more concerned with their position and their salary and remaining comfortable than doing what is necessary, taking the hard stances to make sure this country is protected and a future is established for it.
So, all right, where will we see Blair Cottrell next?
Well, I suppose if you want to get involved...
Other than on a building site as a chippy?
Yeah, well, maybe not on a building site. I pretty much do my own jobs. It's necessary for me, being so vocal. It's necessary for me to be self-sufficient in that field. But if you want to get involved in our community organisations, you'll meet me personally in our Melbourne club, our social club. And you can find me on social media, on Facebook or Twitter. Send me a message and get involved, because nothing like this has really happened in this country before. We're at a crisis point, we really are, but there are so many good people in this country. There's so much hope. And I really believe that there's a dramatic cultural and political shift about to take place, and we want to be at the helm of that.